Hi, tonight we're going to talk about why do we suffer? All humans, rich and poor, suffer, and it all starts in our mind, where we cling or are attached to anger, anxiety, or possessions. This suffering is optional, as the root of it is attachment, which is not a punishment but a result of desires. Therefore, freeing our mind from attachment gives us a reward of happiness. Suffering is the consequence of thinking too much as we become prisoners of our thoughts. To break the spell of distress that causes suffering, we must become aware of where it is coming from. Our distress and hardship doesn't come from life, but how we react to it. Life just is. So we need to change. We need to learn how to live and be happy in the midst of hardship, distress, misery, sadness, and heartbreak. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "The seed of suffering in you may be strong, but don't wait until you have no more suffering before allowing yourself to be happy." Yoda says, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering." If we fear suffering, we are already feeling the pain of it, which creates unhappiness, as it does not allow us the freedom to be happy. We can't cling to happy experiences and drop the unpleasant ones, because they are two sides of the same coin. So we have to accept and let go of both. We have the ability to tolerate, prevail, overcome, and be better because of our suffering, as it is an experience to learn from. Willie Nelson says, "We create our unhappiness. The purpose of suffering is to help us understand we are the ones who cause it." Bob Marley said, "Truth is that everybody is going to hurt you. You just got to find the ones we're suffering for." But fear of suffering is adverse to and inadequate to get rid of suffering. Because we fear suffering, we agonize about what we fear, and it is worse than suffering. To stop fear, we need to take action, as thinking will not stop fear, because fear is thinking. The remedy is to experience it to the full extent possible, so we can confront life in a new way than what is usual. Discomfort and irritation is normal, but we can reduce our suffering by being unattached to our thoughts, because thoughts fire up the emotions that burn us. Attachment lights the fire and causes suffering, as thoughts, emotions, people, places, and things are temporary. So attachment to what is short-term causes pain, so we need to just flow with it. The Dalai Lama says, "If you fear of some pain or suffering, you should examine whether there is anything you can do about it. If you can, there is no need to worry about it. If you cannot do anything, then there is also no need to worry." We are human beings, so we have vulnerabilities, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But suffering shows us our scars and sores that make up our life. If we look outside for peace, we suffer because we see all the pain and grief in the world. But if we look inside, we put our suffering to sleep and grow by learning the lesson at hand. There is a saying, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So find peace directly within, and it will change the suffering in the world indirectly. This happens so we can rebound from a broken heart or hurt feelings. It is universal, as everyone hurts from broken relationships, broken dreams, and fragile emotions. We should not focus on the pain and hurt, as that will make us sour, bitter, and unpleasant. Besides, the heartache is there only to change us and make us better. Rumi says, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." In another quote, he said, "The wound is the place where the light enters." We all seem to be broken, as light works in mysterious ways to make us better. In the Bible and Hebrew scriptures, Job is broken but works through the grief denial, suffering, and anger. Shakespeare said, "I cried when I had no shoes, but I stopped crying when I saw a man without legs." Life is full of blessings. Sometimes we don't value it. We need to let go of the thoughts that create our suffering, to be unattached from them, so we can experience relief, peace, and well-being. We can stop our suffering when we are capable of stopping the thoughts of anger, hatred, and jealousy and replace them with love, peace, and happiness. We need thoughts that will take us higher, so we need to believe in ourselves and that we can do it. Suffering is not rational, and it is not something we can run away from, because it won't leave until we have learned the lesson. We can't fake it, repress it, deny it, or avoid suffering, because it comes to all living things, putting us in stress. But we have the spiritual capacity to renew and rebuild. Osho says, "Suffering is not holding you. You are holding suffering." Suffering has one purpose, and that is for us to learn to live with it. Therefore, we can reduce suffering if we know why we are suffering. There are no rules, no checklists or map to stop the pain, to free us from suffering, as it is a natural instinct. So we find a new point to center on and integrate the suffering with a new perspective. The question isn't how to stop suffering, but to develop the skill to live with it as it exists and existed, so we don't erase it, but we don't let it control our life. We are human, so suffering is inevitable and unavoidable. So we shift our viewpoint and see that our agony today is our strength tomorrow. This is where we encounter existentialism and Buddhism, where we live and suffer, but persist, not to stop suffering, but to find the why and purpose of it. It is important not to focus on the agony, but to converge on the lesson, so we increase our understanding of our suffering. We notice without reacting that we are messed up, but that doesn't mean we are deformed. It just gives us awareness over our present condition. We emerge stronger from our suffering and carry the scars to prove it. But with new eyes, we see the purpose and meaning of it. Osho says, "Suffering is not holding you. You are holding suffering." Thich Nhat Hanh says, "People have a hard time letting go of their suffering out of a fear of the unknown. They prefer suffering that is familiar." Entering the unknown, we stumble and trip, but we pick up the truth at the same time. So now we suffer less. Pain can't be dealt with a stiff upper lip or religious cliche, because each one of us has our own journey through suffering to go through, from thought to awareness. Thoughts are deciding, analyzing, and making judgments, while in awareness, there are no choices. It is a direct experience based on observation. We are not separate from awareness. It is in the present moment, buried under our cultural conditions, opinions, and other inaccurate thoughts that cause us to suffer. Therefore, entering the altered consciousness of awareness again and again rewires our experience of reality, where we realize we are something other than who we thought we were, because we are beyond thought. We take in the present experience, knowing without conceptualizing, and we mature, responding differently to our environment and suffering, transcending to a new, higher level of consciousness beyond fear, resistance, and paranoia, to joy, harmony, love, and peace. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "People suffer because they are caught in their views. As soon as we release those views, we are free. We don't suffer anymore." The Buddhist Dhammapada says, "All conditioned things are impermanent. So when one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering." Thank you.